I'm Dean Newland, and welcome to Leadovation. Reimagine, facilitate, flourish. This podcast is dedicated to the art and science of innovative leadership. Through insightful interviews with industry experts, I bring you cutting-edge strategies and experiences of innovative leadership, helping you think differently, act strategically, and achieve remarkable results. Join me as I provide insights and tools that empower you to make smarter decisions, forge meaningful relationships. Welcome to Leadovation. By 2028, a quarter of all job candidate profiles could be fake. That's the Wall Street Journal's prediction, and it's sparking a quiet shift back to face-to-face interviews, real conversations, and the human side of leadership. In a world chasing productivity through AI and virtual everything, are we forgetting how to truly connect? In my conversation with leadership expert Greg Giuliano, fellow Oregonian author, coach, and jazz singer, we unpacked why the future is still human. We explore the cost of neglecting workplace relationships, the ROI of engagement, even in high-pressure environments, and Greg's ABCs of leadership, aligning people, building bench strength, and coordinating action. We also talked about the magic that happens when teams embrace play, the power of intentional connection, and the often overlooked art of fellowship. If you've been wondering how to strip the rust off of your leadership skills, build real trust in a digital-first world, and create a team everyone wants to join, this conversation gives you the tools and maybe even the nudge to start today. Listen in, take notes, and ask yourself, how human is your leadership? This is the Leadovation Podcast. I'm Dean Newland. Let's dive in. Well, Greg, it's great to have you on the show, a fellow Oregonian on the other side of the mountains, the Cascade Mountains. I don't know whether you saw it, but today Wall Street Journal had an article that talked about recruiters realizing that by the year 2028, they predict that a quarter of all candidate profiles will be fake, and that they were beginning to see a return to interviewing people face-to-face, live, getting out of the Zoom stuff, getting out of the AI stuff, which I thought interesting. I mean, what do you think, man? I mean, we're in the same industry. Is this kind of like a canary in a mine that says we need to pull back a little bit on AI when it comes to leadership? Because I know you've got a lot of books that you've written and some nice YouTube videos. And I think one that you mentioned was leadership is human.
Yeah.
Are we beginning to see signs that people are saying like, all right, all this great technology is wonderful from a productivity perspective, but we got to pull back to real human interactions? What do you think?
I completely agree. I think that the technology is awesome, but when it comes to making things happen inside of our organizations, the future is still human. That it requires human beings connecting in order to get things done together. And so you might be able to ask AI to, give you a beautiful resume and help you, get attracted. But once the door opens and you step through, you've got to be able to show up and deliver, and getting humans to work together. AI won't be able to replace that. That requires a human being who has assumed the responsibility to lead that group of human beings, and those skills AI can't replace. You've got to be you've got to be emotionally intelligent. You've got to be able to think clearly. You've got to be able to communicate effectively on the fly, and your computer can't help you with that. And more and more, the people that comprise your team are people who grew up in this digital age, and there's the numbers are real in terms of their they're where they are in terms of their ability to relate to other people, without having their phone in their hand, and so I think it's being a good human and being intentional about how you show up to engage people and to empower people and to unlock their talent and activate them. AI is not going to help you with that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I was thinking as you were talking, Greg, about what life was like right after the pandemic. And I remember, you probably do too, that first event that you got on a plane and went and did some live facilitation, live training.
Yeah.
And I think the big first one that I did was Ryan Companies. They're a big construction company out of Minneapolis. And they had their first SLT meeting in 3 years, I think it was, like 80 people all coming together down in Phoenix, by the way. And God, it was a barn burner. I mean, people were just so overjoyed to see each other. And so it was a ton of fun. But I also noticed after that, there was almost like a sluggishness, that people forgot how to connect, how to have conversations, how to be involved in some healthy conflict. And it's almost like we got lazy, or we got too dependent on this very technology we're talking right now, this sort of virtual interaction. But I'm still seeing, even a few years later, that there's still this, I don't know, I'm not quite hip on these face-to-face meetings, and I'm a little bit rusty. How are you helping people shave off the rust and get back to being good at the old basic conversation?
Yeah, it's funny. I was doing that with a leadership team last week, and we have to be intentional about connecting that. And what kinds of conversations are we having? Are they, do they dive right into the work, or and is it just all surfacey stuff? And so we're very intentional. I am, about helping them form and strengthen their connections and get. And I'm just reading this. It was an article I read yesterday about how we have fewer friends at work now because we're working remotely, and the pace is much quicker, and things are more complex. And so, and because we go home and we don't engage with them. And we have the conversation around, we don't want to be really intentional about connecting, because if we want to collaborate, and we have to collaborate, then we need to cooperate. And if we're going to cooperate, we need to trust one another to a certain degree. And we don't do that unless we're in relationship with one another, because if we don't have those connections, then when we start to have a conversation where there's some emotional charge and we might disagree with one another, we're going to unintentionally poke one another in the eye all through the conversation. And if we don't have the connection, we take it very personally. And then we go into a victim corner, and the next 10 minutes of the meeting, we're plotting how we're going to get back at Sam because he said something that kind of threw me under the bus in the meeting. So I want the connections to be really strong so that we can have those messier conversations. And that's where creativity and innovation happen. You have to be able to have those conversations where you get into it. And then when we're done, we go out for a beer, or we go have a glass of wine. It's all, we're still friends. We're coming at it from a different point of view. And we talk about building the muscle where we get into those conversations and we're able to loosen our grip on our brilliant idea that we came into the room with, and be okay with that something might emerge because we let go of the position we showed up with, that something better might emerge because we had that messy conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You mentioned we have fewer friends at work. Reminds me of the Gallup 12. I think they did this 12, 15, 20 years ago. The Gallup 12, it was an assessment on engagement, and they had 12 questions. And I think 7 out of those 12 questions had to do with relationships at work. And one of the questions I remember distinctly was, I have a best friend at work.
Yep.
I'm wondering how the data would could compare today as it did when it first came out. I'm assuming that it's probably not going to be as strong. I mean, so back to what you were saying though, if it's about those connections, what does a person do to kind of create those connections? Should I be going to work if I'm listening to this and, driving my car, heading into my office if I have a home office? Should I be thinking about creating friendships? Should I be making that a goal? Or if not, what should I be focused on to be able to build those kinds of relationships that do everything you just said, like getting through conflict, et cetera?
Yeah, well, I mean, even if it's just for if your end state is that we work well together, you need to be intentional about forming connections with people at some level. That because you have a your operating model or your value chain for how work moves through the organization. You have people that you rely on to help you with what you are accountable for, and you have stakeholders, and you need to be in relationship with them, and you need to know them so that you can align on what does it mean to collaborate and how are we going to do this together. And that none of that just happens. You can't just cross your fingers and hope for the best. And so that's why, in this most recent book, I talk about that leaders create that environment, the conditions for people to engage, and engagement scores like your Q12, it's all about relationships. People don't engage with the organization. They engage with their work, and they engage with other people. So how do we as leaders facilitate that? It's not, I think that command and control is very last century, and it doesn't really work anymore. It doesn't work with the younger people in the workforce. Nobody likes being told what to do. So how do we engage people and help them engage one another, engage with their peers and their stakeholders or their customers more effectively, and empower them to shape their work and own their responsibility for the relationships that they need to maintain in order to deliver what they've said, hold me accountable for this.
So, love what you're saying. Right now, as we're having this conversation, the world is going through a bit of gyrations, right? We've got
No.
terrorists, we've got a political situation happening. We're at what, 2.9% unemployment. We wonder whether or not the Fed's going to reduce the interest rates. I mean, there's just so much going on. I don't need to go into all of that. And so at work, there feels in some organizations that I'm dealing with is we don't know what the hell's going to happen, but let's make hay while we can. Let's grind on the work. Let's get it done. Hey, you know what? I know this engagement stuff is probably a good idea, but we don't have flipping time for that right now.
Yeah.
We need to get those numbers. We need to get those KPIs. We need to meet our quarterly goals because our bonuses are basically, connected to that. And I know. We all sort of understand that there's something intuitive that says engagement is the right thing to do. But in some ways, when push comes to shove, organizations probably say, when we are doing a little bit better, then maybe we'll invest in that.
Yeah.
What do you tell executives?
I tell them they're wrong.
But what do you tell them about what's the ROI of engagement that makes them so that it doesn't, because I get into this all the time. It's like, hey, this feels like I'm just sort of selling you on my services, right? And I keep telling them, like, listen, whether you work with me or not, or whether you work with our company or not, here's what the reasons why you should do this, because engagement does pay off. But what do you tell people?
I tell them at the end of the day, it's about saving money, right? If they're concerned about expense, paying attention to engagement and taking care of your people is good business. It's smart, because if you don't, right? So there's two kinds of teams. There's the team. Actually, there's three kinds of teams. There's the team where it's drive, get stuff done, and those kinds of teams we've all been on. We probably have all been on one at some point in our career. Higher attrition rate, right? More people getting, sick and divorced and dying and leaving, right? Or they quit and they don't leave, right? They quit and they stay, and they're just hanging out. And so those kinds of teams, it gets expensive because you got to replace those people all the time. And then there's the other kind of team that everybody's happy and they're holding hands and singing songs, but they're not getting anything done. And so we talk about how do you create a team that has a more balanced approach? That how do we work together right? So let's be intentional. Intentionality, I think, it's a through line for everything that we do. Be intentional about how you show up as a leader, and be intentional about how you are going to work together, how you're going to treat one another as a team, how you're going to communicate with one another. What can your stakeholders and your partners expect from you consistently? Being intentional about how are we going to do this? What does it mean for us to be a team that performs at a high level? And if you pay attention to that, the results are going to follow, right? You're going to hit your business. You're going to hit all your OKRs. You're going to do what you need to do. But so you need a balanced approach that, yeah, we want to drive results, but that comes from developing people and making sure the team is set up to work well together.
I was thinking about what you just said and reminding myself of a book that I think it's called The Right Kind of Wrong by a gal named Amy Edmondson. She's the one that kind of coined the phrase psychological safety. We actually saw her speak at a Harvard event a year ago. And I love her work because she talks about the idea of creating learning cultures versus cultures that are just focused on execution. The irony is that when you have a learning culture that does a lot of after action reviews, does a lot of collecting input from employees about what's working, what not working, and incorporating it, you not only create better engagement because of this learning culture, but you get more done, and that's where the data seems to show that. So if I'm listening to this, Greg, I'm going, all right, Greg, Dean, this sounds really interesting, but there's so many books and TED Talks and et cetera on this topic around leadership. I just need three things to do that will get me from where I am now to something that's further along. If you were to choose, and I'm sorry for putting you on the spot, but what are a couple, if I'm a leader of a team, right? Yeah. What are 2 or 3 things that I could do today that would improve my leadership, my engagement, my teamwork?
Yeah, easy. So first thing is commit to showing up as authentically as possible and taking your role as a leader seriously. And I love the motto from the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst, which is serve to lead. I think you're there to serve the team. The team is not there to serve you. You are there to create an experience for these people to show up and achieve their best results and be the best who they are. So the first thing is show up well. Second thing, and it's my ABCs. You got to make sure everybody is aligned. So are you aligned? I would ask I would think, okay, my team today, does everybody know what our mission is? Is everybody aligned on what success looks like? Is everybody aligned on what their role is and what our execution plan is and what their piece of that is? So aligning people, and checking, are we aligned on these things? Second thing is you're always building bench strength, individually, and collectively. So if your team is all aligned, because, let me go back and preface this. If your team isn't performing the way you want them to, or one individual isn't performing where you want them to, the lazy and low-hanging fruit answer is, there's something wrong with the person. And usually it's that you, the leader, have not provided the environment for that person to succeed. Something is in the way. What's in the way? Are they not aligned? Help them get aligned. Is there a knowledge or skill gap? Okay, we can deal with that. Let's build the bench strength all the time. It's not once a year we went and we threw axes together.
Yeah, right.
It's what do we need to be good at to deliver what's ours? And the third thing is coordinating action, that your job as a leader is to make sure that all of the plates that your team is responsible for keep spinning. And so if you follow those ABCs of aligning people, building bench strength, coordinating action, that's your routine as a leader, like to make sure that your team is running. So those are the 4 things. Actually, if they went to our website, ultraleadership.com, there's a freebie of how you can on there of how you can assess how your team is doing, to find out what you as a leader need to do to close the delta.
Definitely will include that information in the show notes. You mentioned these great ideas. Thank you for that around those 3 steps for leadership. We have such a obsession in this country around leadership. I think it's part of our Western culture. This go west, young man, and go conquer, the California foothills or whatever. We've always been having this sort of identity as a U.S. citizens around leadership. And I think about other cultures, maybe in Asia, it's more about the collective and your role in the collective, not leading the collective, but being a member of the collective. So if you can't be a leader without a few followers, right? Otherwise, you got a bunch of leaders just trying to take control. But what's the role of the follower in your model? Or are we all leaders and we just simply kind of morph in and out of followership and leadership dependent upon the circumstance?
Yeah, so I think everybody's leading all the time, because we all are in a position where we have to, at some point every day or on a regular basis, get somebody to say yes, right? Right, and if they don't, they don't have to do what I tell them to do, right? But so it's a leadership of, you're either leading yourself of how am I showing up, or if you're not a people manager, but you're still leading because you need to engage these folks and collaborate with them and get them to say yes to engage with you and work with you. So I think everybody's leading all the time. Okay. The flip side of that is that, as I was saying a minute ago, leadership isn't the title, the position. It's a mindset. I'm here to serve what we are trying to achieve together. And in that regard, the flip side of being a good leader is being a good follower. And I think of that in terms of being open to engaging and working with other people, being coachable, being willing to be changed in the interaction. And so that takes emotional intelligence. It takes being a good listener, right? If I'm not willing to be changed by what you're telling me, I'm not really listening to you. I'm just waiting for you to stop talking. So I think that followership and leadership go together. The best leaders, when they're great members of their leadership team, and there's not very many great leadership teams that they're showing up open and willing to collaborate because they're siloed and they got in that room by knowing what they know, and so they don't want to admit that they don't know something. So it's hard with very senior leadership teams. It's not impossible, but it's harder. But how do you help people who've reached a certain level, remind them that they're not done growing yet, that they should be open to upgrading their own operating system, and open to engaging with other people to collaborate?
I think it's John Katzenbach who had a book called Teams at the Top.
Yeah.
He mentioned why you don't normally see great leadership or great teams who are leaders at the top.
Yeah.
And I think his research said it's because they've been trained so long to be leaders that they haven't been trained to be followers. They haven't been trained to be collaborative team members. But when you get that secret sauce, when the trust starts to really open up, we start to rely on one another, you have really good dialogue, that group is a powerhouse because their energy reverberates throughout the organization. But of course, flip side is if they're dysfunctional, everybody watches it, everybody sees it.
Right. Yeah. And that happens in a lot of organizations. We make the distinction between, you've got a great team of leaders, but they're not a leadership team.
Yes.
Right.
Correct.
And so the team of leaders is, they happen to report, they all report to the CEO. And if they're a team of leaders, they run their silo, their function very, very well, or not. And they jockey against one another for resources and whatnot. The leadership team is aligned around that. There's something that they need to do as a team that makes them a team. So I like to help them get clear on, So in addition to running your part of the business for the CEO, what do you need to do together that makes you a team? And it's usually around shaping the culture and modeling that, and developing the entire organization to lift all the boats simultaneously. So getting them focused, aligned on what's the work that needs to happen, that you as a team are accountable for it, not any one of you, because any one of you can't do it, because you need to be thinking about the entire enterprise and helping them make that shift, and then taking them on a journey of, how are you modeling these? You talk about the corporate values or the culture. If you're not modeling it, people are going to just wait. That, these leaders will go, I'm just going to wait you out. I'm not going to go along with any change that you want to do, or they'll just wait because they know that you're not serious. If you talk about change and they don't see that you've changed your behavior, then they're not going to believe you that you're serious about really executing the change.
I think you hit upon something, that we all have value statements, mission statements, vision statements that are plastered all over the break rooms and so forth. We talk about it, we have it published, but we first do a test to see if it really means something. And the first place we go is that executive team and see, are they really just espousing these ideas, do as I say, not as I do, or do they really mean it? I was just, again, in Minneapolis last week, and we were talking about this very same thing, is just how much we as individuals, whether we are leaders or not, have blind spots about how we show up. We are not aware of how other people view us. Yeah. I mean, I would almost venture to say that, I don't know, this is more like Dean sticking his finger out and wondering where the wind is going. But my sense is that we probably know maybe half of how we show up. We're conscious of how it affects other people. I think that's why 360s are so useful, because you get to pick up on what others see that you do not see. So I think you bring up a really good point. And I don't mean to keep dropping books names, but there's another Katzenbach book called The Wisdom of Teams. And it's exactly what you're saying, is like, the team is a team because they all have something mutually they have to do together. We're not just here because we're on an org chart all reporting to one person.
Right.
There is a reason for us being here. And if we don't have a reason for us being here, that's okay. We're a work group. We're not really a team. And I love the way he does a great job of defining the different types of teams and the structure that needs to then fall into that definition. So that's the good stuff. I have a question for you, though. Personal question. Over your right shoulder, my friend, you've got, I think, an American flag in a frame. Those of you who are listening to this, I'm giving you a description of what I'm seeing. If you're on YouTube, you probably see what I'm seeing. So you put it as your backdrop, your background. There must be a story. What is it?
So my dad was a big influence in my life, and he was grew up in poverty. Was very upset because he was 1 year too young to get into the Marines in time for World War II. So he joined the Marines in 1946. So the war was over, and his older brothers gave him a hard time because they were in the war and he wasn't. So but so for my father, service was really important, and public service was really important, and he passed when I was 17 years old, and this flag behind me was the flag that draped his coffin when he passed. In my entire adult life, in taking care of my family, in being a part of my community, in working in the field of leadership and helping people to grow themselves, is all a conversation with my father. What would you say about this? What would you do in this situation? What do I want to do that's like what you did? What do I want to do that's different than the way that you did it? So that's a reminder to me of service and sacrifice and the lessons that he taught me while he was with me physically, and what he's been teaching me as I've been unpacking it and reflecting on it for almost 50 more years.
I often ask people what got you into this work. What was the catalyst that made you do what you do? Sounds like you just described it.
Yeah, it was he was it was always about you can do better, get better.
Mm.
And you're not comparing yourself to anybody else. It's just what do you want? What does getting better look like to you? And so I started my career in education, and then I moved into I got my doctorate in psychology, was in private practice for a while, and then while I was in private practice, this new field of executive coaching started to emerge. This was like the mid to late 1990s, um, and and so I started to explore that, and I love the starting point. Right,
Mm.
so therapy, something is wrong. Can you fix it? Uh, Coaching and leadership development is I'm doing fine. I want to do better.
Mm.
Right. So people, when people call us up and they want coaching and they say, we've got this person and they're a train wreck. And it's like, oh, no, coaching isn't really a remedial thing. Maybe you need
Mm.
a performance. Maybe you need to do a PIP with them and, but it's a performance thing. Coaching is I'm doing pretty good. I want to do better. I
Yeah.
uh, I want to get more out of myself, and I want to be better for the people around me. And so the starting point was just very exciting to me. And it comes back to this is how I can serve, and you get better. You get better at serving your team and serving your organization and serving your community.
So thanks for sharing that personal side of you. I think we have another kind of connection aside from the fact that we both live in Oregon here. But my background years and years ago was as an actor and in the performing arts, and eventually kept asking myself, what do I really want to do? And I kept thinking, I really want the audience to stay put after the play so we can facilitate a conversation about what they learned and what we as actors learned. And hence, that was sort of this spark of me getting into the kind of work that I do. I haven't been in a play for decades, but I also noticed, tell me if I'm wrong, but you're a jazz singer,
I
a
try, I
trio.
try, I try.
I don't
Yeah,
mean, is it like
yeah.
golfing? You're always trying to get it
I'm
because
always
I
trying to get
noticed.
better. I mean, I don't read music, but I've always loved to sing. I actually have some musical theater in my background,
Okay.
and so I love to sing, and uh, and uh, and so I just take every opportunity now. And this was a coach a few years ago said, "You're kind of hiding out with some things. You just need to." If somebody offers you an opportunity, why would you not take it? And so somebody said, "Do you want to get up here and sing?" And I said, "Oh, okay." And so, and especially moving to Oregon, there's just lots of more opportunities. There's a ton of music in the
Yeah.
area where I live, and I met some great people who are musicians, and they invited me, and I started singing more and more. And so we had a concert a few weeks ago where I had a band come over to the house, and I just told them, by the way, I'm going to sit in, on about 6 or so songs, and they said sure. And so yeah, it's great because it's for me it's being a part of the whole and being able to and
Mm.
learning to improvise because I get kind of like caught up in myself, and so learning, okay, here's where I'm going to jump in and now I'm going to lay out, and right. So it's been fun. It's been fun, and it's just another thing that teaches me about how to be a part of a group.
So learning to be part of the whole, improvisation,
Yeah,
and not hiding out. Those sounds like some good principles when it comes to leadership as well.
absolutely, right. It's how showing up, uh, getting out of your own way and just being present to what is happening. And I love the improv reference because I was telling the team last week, I said, if we really want to take this to the next level, we're going to get somebody in here and we're going to have an improv workshop.
Hmm.
And because it'll make you very uncomfortable, and you'll learn very quickly that that's
Yeah.
okay, that's okay, and that we're all here to make the other person better. So in our conversations, let's engage thinking, I don't want to just contradict you. I want to take what you've said. I want to make you better, a better participant in the conversation. And so I think that singing, trying to sing jazz, I'm not good at scat, but I can do my part.
That's
Um,
great.
but that playfulness, right? And
Yeah.
that, and I think that as leaders, this, I think that if we let go and play a little bit, and my job is to help other people be better, then I'm not going to show up as a boss. I'm going to show up more as a coach. That my job is I have to trust that you know what to do. That's why I hired you. And that's why you're still on this team. So you don't need me telling you what to do. You need me to be available to coach you when you come up against something that you just want to think it through or you need some help. And I'll just ask you a ton of questions. I'm not going to solve your problem for you. I'm going to ask you questions and I'm going to prove to you that you had the answer in your head. And we're just going to get it out of your head. And so that's what this most recent book was about, Coaching for a Change. That's what our Be a Great Coach program is all about, is to build that capacity where the leader learns to kind of play without a net and become the net for the team. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I'm very much aware of late how important language is as it relates to behavior. And I was thinking as you were talking about your singing and the play and the improvisation aspect of it, how interesting it would be if a team decided intentionality, pulling back a word that you used before as well. What if we're not changing anything? We're not changing our meetings per se. We're not changing the KPIs. The goals remain the same. But what if we all came to work with the intention to play? Not being stupid, we're not going to run around, but we're going to come with the attitude of play, almost like a growth mindset, a play mindset.
Yeah.
And how that might change of course, the engagement and the fun that would be, I think, immediately recognizable, but also the innovation, the trust, the experimentation, the learning that would take place just by having a play mindset versus the mindset that we sometimes come into work, which feels like the opposite of play, which is work. And
Right.
work has its whole connotation like, well, I can't wait for the weekend because my work is done. And work feels like it's, a duty put upon us that we don't enjoy. But what do we do to add that layer of the cake that said, let's have a play mindset?
Yeah. Well, we can get so hung up on, what's the stock price or where are we at with this? And it becomes, we tell ourselves this is incredibly serious. And 99.9% of us, we're not doing work that, it's life or death, right? We're a bank or we're a hardware, computer hardware or software developer, or, so it's not life or death. And so if we're not enjoying the experience, why are we doing it?
I know.
It's like you only get so many hours and so many days. And so I think we can do both things. I think we can get good work done and we can have a good time while we do it. And that, again, that's on the leaders. Like, create the culture within your team. I was talking with a leader 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about the corporate culture, and he wants to show up, more of a servant and be playful. And he says, well, that's not the culture in our organization. I said, yeah, but it could be the culture of your team.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm not telling you. And there's lots of stuff that's not in our control. You mentioned it earlier. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now. And it can paralyze you if you let it.
Mm-hmm.
Today, what do I have control over? I have control over how I show up, how I treat other people, and how I move things forward that are mine. And that's all I have control over. And so if we remind ourselves that, it's like, you know what? I can't change the whole company, but I can change how I can be a culture of one, and we can have a culture that in our team that we create psychological safety, we treat each other well, we are reliable, and we have one another's backs, And any team or individual who engages with our team, they're going to experience that. And over time, you'll find people with their noses pressed against the glass, that in the
Wanting to
room,
get in.
and they want to get in. You want to be the team that everybody wants to poach your team members because there's something about the talent on your team.
Correct.
And everybody wants to join your team. You have control over that as the leader.
I do believe that. And I'll go back to the comment that I made earlier about blind spots and the fact that we do not understand, nor a infinitesimal amount of awareness about how much we influence other people. It's like you could be doing what you just said, creating this culture of fun and play and engagement, and you won't know
right
a fraction of how it's affecting other people. And in fact, you might even go, well, I've tried that before, and while it was good for me, I don't have any power over anybody else, and I never saw any results of that. I just had somebody talk to me just a couple of days ago. I met her in Rochester, Minnesota 10 years ago, and she reminded me of a story that I told her that had a huge impact on her. I didn't know. I practically forgot her name. So this is stuff I can remember over and over again is I don't know how I affect other people. To some degree, yes, but most of it I don't. So to your point, you could create that team that you're referring to and don't look for evidence that anybody else is paying attention. They are.
They are all the time. If you're a leader, people are watching you all the time and deciding, do I trust you? Do I like you? Will you have my back? Right?
Yes.
Are you reliable? All those things. And we need to, as leaders, go out and we need to ask people how we're doing because we're having an impact on people all the time. And so again, it's by designing it. I want to check in regularly. And so I want to check in on the good stuff. So you remember this too. Back in the day, we used to teach people how to give better feedback. And we would say, okay, now that your assignment is to go and give feedback to someone. And they wouldn't do it because it's uncomfortable. So I flipped the assignment. I said, okay, I want you to go out and get feedback. Because 9 out of 10 times when you go out and get feedback, somebody's going to ask you, okay, now do you have feedback for me? Right. So go out and get feedback, get an endorsement. What's something that I do that you like, that has a positive impact on the team or the organization that I should keep doing and do it more? And what's something that I do that I might not know that I do that I'm getting in my own way? It's kind of like asking, you need somebody in your life who's going to tell you when you have spinach in your teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And who at work has permission to tell you when you have spinach in your teeth? What's something that you do that you do all these things good, and then you do this one thing and you don't even know it, and it kind of detracts? And you need somebody at work, that work friend, who's going to tell you. They're going to endorse the good stuff, and they're going to illuminate, and they're going to be the one who tells you, hey, that's a kind of spinach in your teeth kind of a thing. Don't do that, Ismet. Don't do that anymore.
Yeah. I was back in Minneapolis, and I was looking out over the street below me, and I noticed this bar that, because I grew up in Minneapolis, that my father used to frequent at the end of work. And his other reporters and photographers would hang out and talk about the day, before going home. Right. And I'm thinking that going back to the G12 and going back to some of the stuff we're talking about is we don't socialize with each other much. We go to work if we have to now, because we're being told we have to be in 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5 days a week. Oh, my God. So now we got to get on our laptops, have Zoom and WebEx meetings with the people who are in the building with us.
Right.
So, it's nuts. We're not spending any social time with us. So there's one company, another one that I really love and work with a lot of, but it's difficult to get them to say, hey, at the end of our meeting, let's go out and have a beer. You don't have to drink a beer, go out and have tea. But it's the act of that breaking down those silos, having some fun, connecting with people on a real level, let the natural flow of things. We did this, and I was able to get this group together. And I swear, some of the conversation that we had in that maybe an hour and a half after hours at a little restaurant was probably as important as the meeting that we had that was more formalized. So I really one of the big takeaways is I know we're busy. We got kids that we got to take off to soccer practices, and family is sacrosanct. I get it. But a lot of downstream benefits can happen by once in a while having a social hour with your team.
Absolutely. So leaders should bake that in. That's part of their their routines for their team. That the leader, you're inviting people to coffee or lunch on a regular basis, even if it's virtual. Right? Being intentional about not just jumping in and not assuming. And then the teams should. The expense of getting together in person is well worth it. You're going to get a tremendous return if 2 to 4 times a year you go through the trouble of getting together in person, because there are a lot of conversations you can have virtually, and there are some that you just need to be in the room with one another.
Mm-hmm.
You just need
Absolutely.
to be, and it's not just to be in the room and talk about the business stuff. It's then when you take a break and you have these informal chats, and you're able to connect, or you're able to solve something that would have been a ridiculous string of emails and wasted meeting time, and it happens in 5 minutes standing in front of the coffee on the snack table, or going out to dinner and getting to know more about people. So it will. It goes back to where we started. The future is human.
Yes.
You can do a lot virtually, but getting together in person is the added value to that, and the return is going to be incredible for the life of that team and for the work that they do.
I agree. And again, what I noticed in this little social hour that we had last week was, once everybody got down and got their tea or their beer or their glass of wine, whatever the case may be, is first questions well, where do you live? How many kids do you have? Do you have kids? So what we did was we tried to find commonalities. And of course, commonalities were abounded. We were all over the place. I remember when I was in China once, and I asked a group of people with whom I could not understand their language nor me. So we had to do some translation there. And I said, what are you most proud of? And what are you most embarrassed about when it comes to your country? Well, did we have quite a conversation? And of course, and I shared the same thing, right? So now we found out about our families, education, how we wanted to better ourselves. So now they are the us, and we all are part of this same thing called the human experience. And I just remember that as being a great conversation over dinner. Greg, all right, so here's the deal, man. Tell me about your books. How do people connect with you? You're up to some cool stuff. How do we follow you and what you're all about?
Yeah, I appreciate it. So I'm on the web, ultraleadership.com. Our company's called GA Ultra Leadership, and we work with individuals and teams and organizations, helping everybody, good leaders and teams, become even better leaders and teams. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm there all the time. Post regularly. We have a weekly newsletter that we do on LinkedIn, and we also have a YouTube channel where a lot of the stuff that I talk about, I get it on video, and we get it out there for folks. So those two platforms, LinkedIn and YouTube, you can find us at Ultra Leadership. You can if you can spell my name, you can find me on LinkedIn. And the newest book is called Coaching for a Change. The A is in parentheses intentionally, because coaching helps bring about positive transformation. So you're coaching for change, but also I want leaders to try coaching for a change. Stop telling people what to do and start coaching. Trust the people on your team that they know what to do, and just be their coach for them. And that doesn't mean being just a rah-rah cheerleader, but coaching is about accountability. It's like, how do you help people get to what's their best next step, and they own it and they take it. So that's how you find us. And based on, I'll tell you the last thing, blatant commercial. So based on the book, we've designed a leadership development experience called Be a Great Coach. And great is with the number 8. And we have a coaching framework that is 8 questions that moves you from idea to action in as little as 10 minutes. And so we do that inside organizations, team-based or cohort-based. And now we're bringing it to the public. If you've got development dollars from your company if you've got some rewards stuff coming your way, you can find out about our Be a Great Coach program, that it's available to any individual now, and cohorts are forming now to kick off in the fall. And so that's the commercial. I really appreciate it.
No, the commercial's fine. That's what I wanted to ask you. So what does the GA stand for in your name? The company name?
Giuliano Associates.
So was that what you used to be called, and you wanted to
just
bring them together?
It was me. Yeah. So this is the iteration that I started the company as Giuliano Associates, but everybody referred to us as Ultra Leadership. So we just changed the DBA and made it simpler.
I got it. Well, Greg, it's great to meet you. Stay cool over there. I hear it's going to be 100 degrees on the west side of the Cascades, but keep up the great work. And
it's going to be ugly over here.
I know, but I hope we connect again sometime.
I do too. Yeah, you're close, man. We should get together.
Definitely. Let's do it.
I appreciate it, Dean. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you for listening to Leadervation with Dean Newlund. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to learn more about Dean or Mission Facilitators Leadership, go to mfileadership.com. That's mfileadership.com, or check the show notes. Reimagine, facilitate, flourish. Transform your leadership success with Leadervation.